Welcome, welcome. We are here at the Shala for a continuation of our studies on why Ashtanga and sthira sukham. We last week talked about sthira being Ashtanga. Ashtanga is very much a sthira practice. I personally initially fell in love with this practice because it had all this beautiful strength work in it, and it made me sweat, and I wanted to get stronger, and in that strength it made me want to be lighter. But today is about the strength, and I believe that in yoga as in life, we do strength first, and we build off strength. That's how I feel it works for us as human beings. I was talking a lot about parenting this last few weeks. I believe the best of parents really work towards building their children and building strong immune systems in the mind and in the body. And so Ashtanga really is a really amazing methodology that helps us train to become strong. And in everything, it trains us to be strong in our physical body, also in our energetic body, and in our mental body. It helps us be strong. So Ashtanga begins with, for most of us, trying to find our strength in our external body. So when we first come here, and maybe it's easier for some and harder for others, but when we first come here, we do a lot of chaturangas. And we spend a lot of time in down dog. And if you don't have a strong back or core, we talked about that last week when we were looking at Agnisara and Uddiyana Bandha, but we also, we find it first through our rooting system here, but the physical external limbs have to be strong. And so it's a little bit like, you know, you feel like Frankenstein when you walk, like boom, 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 boom. I felt that way in Ashtanga at first, like boom, boom, boom. You know, but that's okay, because that's where we all begin in this journey of finding our strength in our physical bodies. And it was reminding me, and I want to share this with all of you. So we've been studying the koshas again, of the koshas and the chakras. But the koshas being like the first kosha that is our most external kosha, which we're all present in every moment of our life, is our physical body. And so we're trying to keep, by coming to yoga, our physical body clean and healthy. And so coming into that, the first thing we do is just like putting out those poses as best we can and getting strong in the physical body. And then we move into the next layer of the koshas, which is, Tamara's getting all the answers right, the energy body. So then we use this ujjayi breath, and we learn to control this ujjayi breath, and it's strong, and it has this ability to push prana. It brings me to life, literally, and also energetically. But it also has this power to push through the different vayus and open things up and create a health that's an energetic health for me as well. And then the next kosha we move into is Manomaya kosha, is the thinking kosha. So yoga as well teaches me that I come in here, and at first I'm just trying to get the poses right. You all remember being new to Ashtanga, and you're looking around and seeing what the person next to you is doing. You're like, we're going to do that again? Are you kidding? So, you know, as you jump back, and as you're trying to reach for your strength, you're trying to get the breath right. But at the very beginning, you're trying so hard that you're 100% present. And it's almost that beginner's mind that you don't want to lose. You know, when you're new to this, you're like so in the moment, like just trying to get the pose, get the next pose. And that's beautiful, because then sometimes as we refine that, we get a little bit more lazy in the mind, so we're constantly using vinyasa and whatnot to help us stay really focused in the mind as well. But it gets interesting to me when you do this practice for a week, for a month, for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, and you get stronger and stronger and stronger, is you start to move and you shift from this like external place that we operate in, which could be the way we function in the world as well, to this very internal place where now, as Iyengar would say with the koshas, those first 3 koshas, we're looking outside into the world and being like, hey, I'm happy everyone came to class today. Oh, I'm sad no one came to class. No one likes me as a teacher. And I'm living in that external world in those first 3. But once you get to the Vijnanamaya kosha, the lens changes from looking outward to looking inward. And that is the great gift of yoga, is that we enter trying to work on our sthira, our strength, and do all this stuff, and at some point we do it long enough where a shift happens, and now my lens is looking this direction. And I'm working even physically from this direction. I'm working energetically more from this direction. I'm more in my mind working from this direction. And all the same things are maybe happening outside. Students come, students don't come, students do this, they don't. Nothing's changed out there, but all of a sudden my perception and my view and the way I show up has changed. That to me is one of the greatest gifts of doing this practice every day, every month, every year. And focusing, right now we're talking about is finding your strength first and really getting strong in that strength so we can talk about the tree again, how we're more able to move and let things go and let life happen when we have first that strong. So even in the analogy of the tree from last week, we find our strength through a rooting system in Ashtanga in particular, maybe more so than some other practices. But our rooting system starts here. So we root here to find our roots, as we were talking about the Vitruvian man, down through the feet, out through the limbs, up through the spine, through the top of the head. And every single pose has that ability to have that quality of strength in it and that movement of energy and that focusing in the mind. And we get that from practicing Uddiyana Bandha. Every pose I'm trying to pull my lower belly in and keep that drawn in and let the breath move and feel like it pulls me up. What is the second lock? So we know the first lock is Uddiyana Bandha. What's the first lock? Mula Bandha. Did I say Mula Bandha? Mula Bandha. So what's Mula mean? Mula is a sunfish. They're very beautiful. But this is a Mula Bandha. It is a Mula lock. It is the root. Mula meaning the root. It is the root lock. So again, if I think of the tree, if I can contract my perineal muscles and hold that contraction, it becomes like this deep rooting system for me, possibly deeper than Uddiyana Bandha. They work together, but which one is, in your humble opinion, is harder? Pretty much, I haven't heard anyone answer that question differently. Mula Bandha is harder. Why? Is it really that hard to contract your perineal muscles? Let's all do it right now. Squeeze, lift, and release. Squeeze, lift, and release. Now let's squeeze, lift, and take a breath in. Take a breath out. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. And release. What happens? Yeah. For a lot of us, and we're a lot of people in the room, you can't see out here, but are very seasoned practitioners. The best of the best are in the room right now. But listen, I've been doing this for a long time. And I would say in my own practice, I'll find it a lot for me, and I hope for all of you, I find it in the Vinyasa Transition. And about the time that I use my entrance inhale to engage not just Uddiyana Bandha, but really pull my perineal muscles up and move into the next Vinyasa, which becomes the form of the pose for 4 breaths. After 1, after 2, by 3, these muscles that were pulled up, like Uddiyana Bandha, the pelvic floor was lifted, starts to soften, right? Starts to like let go a little bit, like it just like, right? So like I said with Uddiyana Bandha last week, we have to practice, and bring really intention to this part of our body to really make those muscles do what we need them to do. And if I do that, then I'm aware when they start to fall down again, and I can either pick them back up, or the next Vinyasa, remember we talked about every exit is an entrance into something else. So as I'm exiting this, I'm also entering the next pose, and I have this other opportunity. For me, it's very much like resistance. It's the Vitruvian man. Wherever I am, I'm going to push out through my feet, pull back through my shoulders, extend a strong spine, long hamstrings, and I pull up the front of my legs, almost like I was pulling pants up. I feel like these 2 bandhas work together to feel like this pulling sensation, and all the muscles around my knees pull upward. and my quads are fully engaged when I'm in Uddiyana and Mula Bandha, and then I'm more extended in using my arms in extension. Notice the Ashtangis never come up here when we enter our seated poses. We do this. Why? Because it's cooler. That's kind of cool. Why do we do this? I literally, if a new student's in class and I see them going into a pose like this, I stop them. Why? Why this better? Why more better? This has more action for the bandhas and for you coming into your full sthira. And then, we're going to talk about sukha next week, but this gives me that intention. Whereas this, I might be rooting down through my sit bones, but I don't get this resistance from my shoulders. My arms are engaged, my legs are engaged, my bandhas are engaged. This is a brilliant way to enter and exit poses. So I want to add one thing. This is very much a Diana thing. Over the years you've been practicing here, you've heard me say this, and it really works if you will just, this is moving the furniture for a lot of people though. So it's practice, 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 and you're like, don't make me change my practice. Move the furniture. What am I going to say? Go slowly. Enter slowly. I feel like this is your inhale, right? And then we exhale into the pose. And a lot of times people just exhale into their flexibility. And in exhaling into their flexibility, I'll tell you what, you're going to lose Mula Bandha. Most of the time, you're going to just lose Mula Bandha. If you go a bit slower and hold those muscles up with intention, and you go into your flexibility, maybe it takes me 2 breaths to get into my flexibility. I go super slow sometimes. It might take me 3 breaths to get into my full extension, but I'm engaged the whole time. And believe it or not, if you go slow and you engage those bandhas, oftentimes you'll find more extension. You'll find a little more sukha that's been waiting for you that you didn't have access to. And of course, one of the great gifts of moving slowly and moving with your bandhas into the pose is you hold your mind better. I feel like this is just a checkout. And the whole idea of this methodology is that we're constantly checking in. I'm checking in every time I push pull. I'm checking in when I move slowly into the pose from my core. I exit, all these drishtis, third eye drishti, then I go to pada drishti, I go back to third eye drishti. All of this is to keep me right here, right now, fully present, working everything in my body. So this week I'd like to ask all of you to practice Mula Bandha. You can practice Mula Bandha outside of your yoga asana practice as well. The cool thing is you can do it anywhere, and if you can control your face like Shiva, no one will even know it. So you can do like contract, release, contract, release. I suggest then you do contract, try to go through a series of breaths and see if you can hold that contraction through a series of Ujjayi breaths and release. I had a student like to do them at stoplights, always stoplight, do a couple rounds. Boring meeting, no one knows you're doing it. Cool, I'm gonna do 10 rounds of Agnisara during this meeting, right? It's almost like if you could just be like, do like a bunch of push-ups, right? Like so cool, nobody even knows you're doing these internal push-ups. And also, we have some really great stories here at the Shala of people that have changed their health through keeping these muscles strong. But the truth of it is, in older cultures and other cultures where people don't sit on chairs, but they sit and talk to each other like this, or they use the restroom like this, these muscles are very strong. And for us, they're not, they're weak. And so as we get older, we start to wear Depends and run into all sorts of problems. So it's such a beautiful, just physical thing for us to do is to strengthen these muscles, keep our back healthy that way, our digestion, so many great benefits to working these muscles. So the quote for this week is by a rabbi from the 18th century, Rabbi Hillel. It's such a beautiful words that I think in and of themselves are a teaching, something to live by. If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? And if I am for myself only, then what am I? And if not now, when?